how's it going, everybody? It is episode 82 here on Hawaii Football Now. Glad to have you alongside. With my guy, Hunter Hughes, I'm Jordan Helly. As always, we record this midweek, and today we record Wednesday. It's just past 7 o'clock in the morning, Hawaii time, set to release this, as we always do, on Thursdays, mid-morning. So we'll get this up in about 24 hours or so. Wanted to start off with a quick opening drive. Wanted to give a shout out to the Rainbow Wahine. Great showing by Laura Beeman's women's basketball squad over in LSU. I thought acquitted themselves very well. Actually played LSU pretty even in the middle portion of the ball game. That's 3-seeded LSU, a team that's got national championship aspirations. It's got Angel Reese, who's a stud. But the second and third quarters, Hawaii only got outscored by 4 total points. Like, they played them very even. Lost the second quarter by 2 points, lost the third quarter by 2 points. Fourth quarter kind of got away from a little bit, and a little bit of a slow start in the first quarter. Kind of understandable, getting used to that environment where they were playing in front of, over 10,000 people. But just awesome. And I'm sure for some of the fans who made the trip, there was a small but loyal contingent that made it out to Baton Rouge. I'm sure for some of the diehards, bring back maybe some fond memories of 2008, the Sugar Bowl, that 2007 season, New Year's Day, 08, heading to the Bayou State. Like, that was, I'm sure, a little bit of nostalgia. Like, that's pretty cool stuff. And, nobody expected them to win. They were 29-point underdogs, covered, by the way. But just I thought represented themselves in Hawaii very, very well. And anytime one of the programs gets to head into SEC country and puts up a respectable performance, I think that's pretty darn cool.
It is, and we earned our right to be there. That's the beautiful thing about March Madness, is they don't just give those tickets away. You have to punch your ticket yourself. And it was kind of a trying year for that Wahine basketball team, where they were kind of overcoming a lot of injuries and a lot of setbacks, but made a heck of an effort through the Big West tournament to punch their ticket to the big dance. And, with all this talk of potentially expanding the tournament, at least the men's side, to 96 teams, it takes away kind of that beauty of, hey, you got to win your right to go to the NCAA tournament. And very, very cool that our Wahine not only were able to accomplish that, but kind of maneuver through the weeds of what this year kind of looked like for them. And this is definitely a successful year. I don't know if we can quite be at that point of expecting this on a year in, year out basis, but Laura Beeman's a tough coach, man. She's without a doubt probably one of our best remaining at University of Hawaii. And I just hope we can hold on to her as long as possible, Jordan.
Yeah, no kidding. And of course is on the search committee for the new athletic director. No new news there. To bring it back to the last couple of weeks' discussion, we haven't heard anything, and it's been interestingly quiet on that front. All right, want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union, and a reminder that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. Originally opened in 1936 as a credit union for educators, Hawaii USA has inspired a culture of giving that is rooted in education and has since become Hawaii's largest credit union and expanded to other areas of community need that impact financial health, including healthcare, housing, and hunger. To learn more, please visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, game time here on episode 82. Guest list today, it'll just be Hunter and I, so our apologies. But now we'll be spreading out the guests as we head into the off season. It's officially kind of the lull before summer gets around, before some new guys show up on campus after the semester's over. Spring practice already having concluded. So there's I think a little bit of a bigger gap in this part of the calendar than we're used to. We're used to that gap kind of coming in between the end of the season and the start of spring practice, right? But the early spring practice to get ready for the Ching renovations. I know some of the other Mountain West schools are starting spring practice like this week. And so their calendar a little bit different than University of Hawaii's, but for us here in the islands, now we get a little bit of a break, if you will. But fear not, we'll be here every week on Hawaii Football Now. I did want to give a shout out and a big thanks to Brian McInnes, who joined us last week. We went for quite a while. I invite you to actually check out his article on Spectrum News, where he's their lead sports writer for everything sports in Hawaii. Goes into more detail on things that we talked about last week, topics we discussed. We actually kind of ran out of time, didn't get to some of the questions that our listeners posed and some others that we had. So we'll bother BMAC and get him back on the pod in the future to get to some of those. But it's kind of interesting. I think it stirred a lot of discussion. Heard from some folks that listened to the pod, so thanks to you guys once again. But I think we're very interested in how that's all going to play out, right? Because you've got the Aloha Stadium issue, which we've discussed at length on the podcast. Thankfully, nothing new to report there. But it's kind of interesting to see the transformation of Ching, how that's going to work out. We were lucky to talk to Brian after he had talked to athletics director David Matlin over at UH. They're getting the expansion underway. The scoreboard was a big topic of conversation that's supposed to come over from Aloha Stadium. When that's going to happen, it sounds like maybe not in time for the season. Some of the greater renovations as well to the practice fields across the street that'll turn into a soccer and track venue. I think exciting to a lot of folks as well. But did you anything you wanted to dive into a little bit deeper after our conversation last week, Hunter?
Yeah, just real quick. I think they're citing supply chain issues being the main culprit for not being able to get the stadium officially from Halava to Manoa, which is just kind of comical for us. Where is that supply chain locally? We can't put it on a truck and drive it over, or
the H1 can be a bit of a supply chain issue, I suppose, at certain times of the day.
That's right. Getting maneuvering the exit from stadium onto H1 and then up and over Red Hill, and then during airport traffic, I don't know if it's going to get here in time, Jordan. I don't know if we're going to get the truck here to Manoa, but before our game against Stanford. So we need to worry about traffic. That's the first thing. But I wanted to just touch on that for a second, where perhaps we don't need an additional Megatron-esque stadium with the video capabilities and the interactive environment. If you recall, Aloha Stadium really only ever had one in I guess that would be the Eva corner of the stadium. But however, we do need some additional scoreboards around Ching, just for basic understanding of our fans of time on the clock, the quarter, and the score. If you're sitting at certain points of, I guess, the Mauka end zone, it is next to impossible to see the lone scoreboard at Ching Field, including the ESPN Honolulu broadcast booth, which is just above that on the Mauka side of the field. We can't even see the scoreboard from inside the booth. So I'm posing that as an alternative. Again, I haven't checked the supply chain availability on these just yet, but pepper in 2 or 3 of those at various other portions of the stadium as kind of a band-aid until we get the big one in place above, I guess that would be the Les Murakami Stadium that overlooks the east end zone of Ching Complex. I wanted to kind of hear what you had to think about that, Jordan.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important because at the end of the day, it's the fan experience, right? You want to make it an inviting atmosphere, a practical atmosphere for fans to come and enjoy, but also, stay current, right? They want to know what the score is. They want to know how much time is left. And it'd be great if everybody was locked in, eyes on every single play. But they're going to the concession stand, they're spending money at the food trucks, they're buying beverages. So they're going to miss some of the action. And heck, even if you're sitting there and watching every single play, like, you're going to lose track of down and distance. You're going to lose track of how much time is left. It's just, there's a lot going on. And so I'm with you. And what you were talking about kind of just reminded me of what it looks like inside of the Stan Sheriff Center, right? Which is just it's still such a terrific venue, and really kind of an advantage for all of our arena sports. within the Big West Conference. But I think, right, you've got the big jumbotron in the middle of the arena, especially helpful for folks sitting a little higher up. But basically in each corner of the floor area, right, there's the strip scoreboard above each tunnel. And it's really easy to see the score. Like, it's really easy to find out the score, which is important in sports like volleyball, right? Because they're scoring on every single play. And so the pace is pretty quick, obviously in basketball as well, where the scoring is fairly constant. But just something like that, right? Something simple. It doesn't have to be the massive scoreboard like at Aloha State. It'll be helpful for sure, especially when you get some video up there, kind of like we see in the parking structure side corner where the current situation is, and something like that, and they do have the clocks up sort of in each end zone.
Play clock.
The play clocks. There's a game clock on the Diamond Head side, right? The Murakami side. There's a game clock there as well. If I remember correctly, I know there are multiple game clocks.
Well, even the play clocks are only a couple of feet off the ground. They're kind of attached to, I guess you'd call it, the wall of those bleachers on the east and west end zones, and really that's just for the players. It is kind of helpful for fans to be able to see that, but that affects playability. Coaches and players have to be able to see those. So personally, I'd like to see those a little bit higher up as well. Just because if you're on the sideline and someone's in your way, you're not seeing those things. But that's been kind of, I don't want to use the word Jimmy rigged, but maybe they found a creative solution on Ching Complex to put those play clocks down on the field level, where perhaps we could get similarly creative with some additional single row scoreboards. Maybe we put them over near the those skybox-esque environments on the south end zone. There are places that I don't know if we've tried to incorporate just yet.
Yeah, and I think that's probably fair to say, right? I think it's a bit of a compliment to the folks down there at the University of Hawaii that they were able to just get some of those play clocks and game clocks up, right? Because you're dealing with a lot. You're dealing with makeshift stands that don't have infrastructure built in when it comes to electrical, and so you've got to put them where you can get power to them, right? It's going to be tough if they're all the way at the top of the bleachers or whatever. And so, and that's why I mean, I kind of said it jokingly, I think the other week, but maybe it's an option, a non-electrical scoreboard, like you see it like Major League Baseball games, right? Where they got windows, and every time there's a score, you just pop in a new
sick, like a Wrigley.
Something like
so
that.
Sick.
And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to take up the entire outfield wall or something like that. You don't need an out-of-town scoreboard. You just need, 2 rows. They get those at golf tournaments all the time, and and those are although I guess they are going more and more digital at some of the golf tournaments that I've seen with some of those mobile boards.
But the old school ones, there's I don't know, like a warmth, a human touch to them.
Yeah, you just need the 2 rows, right? Hawaii on the bottom, whoever's playing on the top, and you basically just need 2 columns. It's not like you got to put 18 different scores for a golf tournament. You don't have to put 9 different scores plus the hits and the errors for a baseball game. You just, maybe somebody scores 100, but really all you need are 2 rows or 2 columns, right? It's like, and then every score, which doesn't happen constantly. We're hoping that it happens fairly frequently with this new version of the run and shoot. But it's not like basketball where you're adding a score every 30 seconds. I feel like it's doable. I don't know how much one of those costs. You got to pay somebody to go operate it as well. I get that. But if
one of the students,
if electrical, sorry, what is that?
Give it to one of the students to run. I'm sure.
Yeah, they're working hard anyway, right? The guys that set up the field, the Murakami grounds crew, the Stan Sheriff crew that flips the court between games and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure.
They could make it work, but I just think if you're trying to work around some of the logistical issues when it comes to electrical and and some of the other things there. Like there are other ways. I think it'd be kind of quaint, as you point out, and maybe a little bit easier to fasten and easier to just operate. So, yeah, I think it's adding to the fan experience. I know we'll get into some of the comments from our viewers and listeners in the second half here, but I did want to bring up one from our guy Al from VA, because we talked about the stadium or Ching mainly in at length last week, and he wrote last week on YouTube. He put Ching Field measure of effectiveness, because we talked about, okay, what's it going to look like? What's success look like, right?
Yeah.
He said it's not the number of seats, but how long it takes to get a beer at halftime. I thought that was great.
Well,
I couldn't agree more, Al.
if
100% agree.
let's play just the memory hypothetical game, Jordan. If you were sitting in the Malka end zone, or the Malka, I guess that's the structure right there.
Kind of the original stands, if you will.
The original stands. Work your way down onto the track, and then by the time you're waiting in line, I mean, it's around 5 minutes, maybe at the most, of being able to get something in your hands.
Yeah. I don't
Very
know how fast the
doable.
line moves.
Yeah. It's not quite as many options as, a traditional stadium where there's almost a vendor option in every section of the stadium. So that maybe perhaps a line could get a little long, but I don't recall glancing over and there being a long line. So in that case, Ching is pretty effective.
Yeah, I would say so. I think there was always a line at the the Heineken tent, but it was never like a ridiculously long line or anything like that. Nothing that you would be surprised by, I think. And that is one of the nice things with the food trucks as well. Some of them obviously a little more popular than others. Some of them you're going to wait longer than others. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun that they made that happen. I don't know exactly what the plan is. I don't think, and I'm not sure if Brian touched on that last week, exactly what the plan is going forward, right? As they build it out more and more, as they kind of enclose the horseshoe or the bowl more and more, like our food trucks still part of the equation? Are they looking at more permanent infrastructure when it comes to concession, kind of like we see at Murakami or at Stan Sheriff? So, but yeah, I think measure of effectiveness so far, I think that gets a passing grade in terms of how long it takes to get your beverage.
Totally. And kind of the what's yet to be discovered too is the walkability for the stands, where after they go and get a Heineken in, those corners right there, you're really within, 10, 15 feet of the corners of each end zone.
Yeah, you're really close to the field.
You're right down there. And just from certain things like security and I don't know, proximity. I'm interested to see if they look at that a little bit. Just from you and I, where we're a part of the media, it seemed fairly easy for just about anyone to kind of walk through the crates right there, or the metal gates, and kind of come right down on the field if they really chose to. I felt like security was okay, but I did wonder if they would try to take that a little bit more seriously in years to come as well. So again, all of that is yet to be discovered, but something worth thinking about too, I think.
Yeah, I think as they bring more and more people in, right, especially if you're looking at doubling last year's capacity at some point, the game day logistics are going to change, right, when it comes to game day management and things like that. And I'm excited to see what they can do, because I think they've done a pretty commendable job so far when it's come to getting Ching viable and actually playable for this program. So yeah, hopefully just maybe a couple more scoreboards. Not necessarily the big Aloha Stadium one, just something around. They'll figure something out for the fans to be able to utilize, and heck, even maybe the teams even to utilize
Totally.
Throughout the game. All right, switching gears here. As we close out the first half of episode 82, some Canadian related notes. A few different guys at different points of their careers all University of Hawaii alums. We've got Blessman Ta'ala, the mainstay at defensive tackle for the University of Hawaii over the last, was it 5 years, 6 years? Dude never missed a game, seemingly was here forever. One of the sturdiest football stalwarts to come through the program here in recent years. It was announced that he's actually the first Hawaii player and first from American Samoa to be invited to the CFL Global Combine. So he'll be going up to Canada, Edmonton to be exact, here in the coming weeks for a combine for the CFL. So that's pretty cool stuff. Cortez Davis, former defensive back for the University of Hawaii, has signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So best of luck to Cortez there. Of course, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, June was there. Guys like Jeremiah Masoli were there. Some Hawaii ties along the way as well. So many Hawaii ties to the CFL. Before we get to the third guy here, which I think is maybe the biggest news of the trio of news items we got out of the CFL, or at least out of Canadian football this past week. Any thoughts on Blessman and Cortez, and hopefully looking to both continue their playing careers up north?
Yeah, I had a little bit of experience playing in France. I guess that'd be semi-professional. And the unique thing with kind of what they're trying to do with the game internationally is give guys opportunities from different countries. And so that's what this CFL Global Combine is all about. Is I'm sure you're going to see a ton of guys from Germany and from different parts of Europe, potentially down in South America too. You'll see every once in a while guys peppered in with the NFL getting chances at rosters from different parts of the country. They're really trying to expand the game in that way. And additionally here, I'm 90% sure that Blessman still holds citizenship in American Samoa. And I bring that up because the CFL is only allowed a certain amount of American players on their roster. It's part of their rules north of the border, and they look to fill the roster as much as they can with Canadian-born players and international guys to ultimately make room also for American guys to fill the roster. So I wanted to just throw that in there, where I think a guy like Blessman Ta'ala is kind of a perfect fit to be up in the CFL, just with what he brings to the table and his specific, I guess you call, it's not just citizenship, but how he fits into their mold up there, how they kind of have to play by those rules. So best of luck to Blessman. He was a rock. The guy looks old fashioned. I don't know how else to put it. Whenever you look at him, he's just got that beard, got like he's made out of stone or something like that. And then throw in there, he did he have the most the most starts of anyone at UH or something like that?
It was close. Yeah, it was. I forget if he had the record or, but he ridiculous, right? I mean, he never really missed a game in his entire career. The dude, yeah, I think the CFL might be a pretty good fit for him, right? It's a bit more of a wide open game. It's a bigger field, 12 players, all of that good stuff. But for a guy in Ta'ala that maybe a little undersized and trying to chase the NFL dream, but I think kind of perfect for the CFL game, where he's a little smaller, quicker, and could really do well on a bigger field with more space. I'm excited to see him there, and hopefully Tez does well as well up there, and a chance to continue on. A lot of guys with Hawaii ties have found a lot of success up north, whether it's guys like Chad Owens or even local products, right? Like Junior IU, some of these other guys. Heck, Jeff Reinbold was another guy up there in Hamilton, right now part of the University of Hawaii staff, made a long career up in Canada, and was always sort of a proponent of getting Hawaii guys up there. Of course, maybe no better career for a Hawaii alum north of the border than Solomon Elimimian, right? longtime BC Lions linebacker, Hawaii's all-time leading tackler during his time at the University of Hawaii. Of course, younger brother of defensive backs coach Abe Elamimian, currently on the Hawaii staff still. He is, I think, still the last guy. And I meant to look this up. He was either the first guy or the first guy in a really long time. And the CFL goes back over 100 years, right? It's got a much longer history than the NFL. He won the league MVP as a defensive player. Like, that's how good he was. Ridiculous. Chad Owens, of course, won it during his time in Toronto, where he was terrific. But Solomon did it on the defensive side of the football, which is like unheard of, right? Like, never happens. Not just defensive player of the year, like most. I think it's MVP, not MOP up there, of the league. And he has been named after retiring just a couple of years ago. He was playing up until about COVID. He has been named to the class of 2023 for the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. So he's going to be a Canadian Football Hall of Famer. And I think absolutely deserved, like, one of the most decorated linebackers in the history of that league, especially in this modern era. One of the, obviously, the most decorated tackler in the history of the University of Hawaii. But just want to give Solomon a huge congratulations. That's awesome. Like, it really is. And he made himself quite the career. I know last time got to talk to him, he was kind of making a home for himself up there in the Vancouver area, which is, it's a beautiful place. One of my favorite places I've ever been to, Vancouver, British Columbia. So just awesome and well deserved. He'll be a Hall of Famer here shortly.
Yeah, that is awesome. You don't need to go to the NFL to still achieve success. And I think he, in my mind, is one of those trailblazers for University of Hawaii, opening the door of what's possible. I still see his name in the locker room of guys that have played professionally, and they really honor what he's done over there. And to be anytime put in the Hall of Fame of whatever you do, and encased as one of the best literally to ever do it. I wonder what color their jacket is too, Jordan. I'm not certain about that, but that is pretty stinking cool for Mr. Solomon. And man, I just hope that this continues to just open the door and the minds of our players of potentially what could happen for their own careers, because he was in their shoes here at University of Hawaii, and with maybe not as good of facilities as what we have now. And it just shows, Rolly used to say it all the time, if you can play, they'll find you. And he showed that he could play over the course of his career. So I think this could bode well for our recruiting and UH as a whole for years and years to come.
Yeah, I think that's a huge angle to it, right? What does this mean for the current state of affairs? And I think, anytime that a coaching staff can go into recruits' living room and point to, the fact that, hey, we produce professionals at this program. Some in the NFL, maybe some guys in the XFL that we've been seeing doing well. Shout out to guys like Cole McDonald, or the Canadian Football League, right? And look, it's not just an opportunity, but you can go up there and make a living. You can make a career out of it.
Great money up there. That's the misconception, that it's not the gargantuan contracts that the NFL makes, but at the same time, it is a seriously respectable living playing in the CFL.
Yeah, and look, you could be a Hall of Famer like Solomon Elamimian, right? And hey, by the way, his brother helps us coach here, and we've got connections, we've got relationships. Coach Reinbold, all that he has up north of the border, right? All these guys that have experience, Timmy Chang, playing wise, right? It's got to help, right? When you're talking recruiting, that you can point to some of these guys that are going on to professional opportunities. Like, it's a pretty big deal.
Holy, no, it's expanding your mind. It's expanding your mind of what's out there, of what is possible. And this is, I think, one of those examples. If I was a coach on this coaching staff, I would be citing as, almost a dream creator for our guys of what could potentially happen. Especially guys that are becoming seniors of, hey, maybe this could be you one day.
Mhm.
Because it's attainable whenever it happens to someone, not just from our team, but you mentioned it, the brother of Coach Abe. Look at him; he's right there. It's attainable. It's almost within within the reach of players, certainly in their minds. So this is something that hits close to home for all of us. And Yeah, it's just good stuff, Jordan. Anytime something good like this happens to one of us, it gets all of us alumni excited.
Yeah, and speaking of, I should go follow up on this, but didn't our guy J.R. Hemsley sign like a futures contract last year for shoot, I forget which of the CFL teams, but I think that was kind of his path forward, as well as he was wrapping up that indoor football league season
That's
last
right.
year when we got a chance to talk to him. So might have to follow up with JR, see exactly where he's at right now. But it's really cool, and especially nowadays with in large part ESPN's coverage of it. You can watch so many of the CFL games on like ESPN, ESPN Plus, all the games that are on TSN, which is sort of their station up north as well. So it's pretty cool. All right, we'll take a quick halftime break. We'll be back on the other side. We'll get into some of your viewer comments, as well as some less exciting news out of the recruiting front for the University of Hawaii. We'll be right back on episode 82 right here on HFN.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, back with you here, second halftime on Hawaii Football Now, episode 82. Jordan Hunter alongside. Glad to have you with us, as always, here on the pod. We'll get to your listener comments, your viewer comments here in just a second. But we were talking about some of the positives. Maybe you can spin it in recruiting with the guys getting opportunities in the CFL, as well as Solomon Elimimian being named to this year's class for the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. Some less encouraging news, I guess you could say, on the recruiting front. Domota Peko Jr., of course, son of longtime NFLer, former NFLer Domota Peko Sr. I think a lot of people will remember him from his time in Cincinnati with the Bengals. He posted on his social media late last week that he was going to terminate his national letter of intent and reopen his recruitment. You'll remember he was a guy, Domota Peko Jr., that is, who kind of committed to Hawaii late in the process, took his time with it, understandably so, and played in the Polynesian Bowl, waited to the traditional signing period in February last month. And I'm trying to remember, I don't know if he actually signed on signing day. It may have been a day or so after that. A guy, kind of a nice hybrid outside linebacker, defensive end, rush guy, could play in coverage, very athletic, also had a ton of catches and yards receiving as a tight end, slot receiver, big body, projected a bit more on the defensive side of the football for the University of Hawaii. It had seemingly come down between San Jose State and Hawaii in his recruitment. As I remember, he had some offers from some other group of five schools as well. Ended up signing. I guess he did sign on February 1st, looking back at the timeline.
He was the second crew of people, the later signing period guys.
Yeah. And so, his verbatim statement that he posted on his social media accounts, the University of, let me get this here. He said, quote, "First, I'd like to thank God for the opportunities he's blessed me with, and also like to thank the University of Hawaii for believing in me and the opportunity. After talking and praying with my family, I've decided to terminate my national letter of intent to the University of Hawaii and reopen my recruitment. Please respect my decision. Thank you and much love." End quote there. So it's kind of interesting, right? So many of the traditional ways of recruiting, whether it's verbal commitments, whether it's national letters of intent, and I think it's still the same, where you can terminate a national letter of intent, but I think it's got to be a mutual thing, right? I think that's the university has to also agree to release you from your signed commitment. unless that never quite got processed. Look, I got to imagine that from the University of Hawaii standpoint, there won't be very many cases, and I don't think this is one where you're going to fight it, right? It's just you got to try and not burn bridges. You got to try and keep up the sense that, hey, we're player friendly as a program, right? Even if maybe you're frustrated by the fact that he's asked out of his national letter of intent. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if there's something that's going to end up keeping him closer to home. We've seen that in the past, right? Where local kids before the transfer portal would come back to the University of Hawaii and would be granted immediate eligibility because of some family hardship or something of that nature that they made the case that they needed to be closer to home. And so I don't know. There hasn't been a ton of reporting on Peko Jr. and so that's why I was kind of curious. I hadn't seen a lot. I was trying to verify, make sure this was his accounts, and did see it picked up a few different places. Even 24/7 Sports hasn't really officially, it's kind of usually where I head to pronounce that Peko is out of his national letter of intent, and so that leads me to believe maybe the University of Hawaii that paperwork hasn't been processed or never got processed, or maybe Hawaii's still in the cards. I don't know. Maybe that's still an option for Peko, right? And if it is, especially if you're Coach Chang, right, you're not going to try and burn that bridge or give him a hard time or anything like that. I think folks on the outside end are going to be like, well, what's the point of a national letter of intent? And man, you're dealing with 18-year-old kids who are making huge life-altering decisions. And again, I really have no idea what led to this decision. And I wish him the best, and I hope that Hawaii's still in the cards. Maybe he ends up at the University of Hawaii at some point, whether it's this season or down the road. But I think for the University of Hawaii, like, you got to keep these doors open, right? You never want to burn a bridge. You never want to close a door, just like we talk about with maybe local kids who end up signing with a mainland school. A good amount of them find their way back home, and so you don't want to burn the bridge. And so, yeah, this one caught me off guard, and I think he was a guy a lot of people were excited about getting, and it's, as it seems now, we're unsure what the future is for this recruit.
No, that's exactly right. It's the kind of, I'm going to use the word annoying part of where Hawaii's situated with recruiting, where you can't afford not to keep doors open. You just can't. And Timmy's mentioned that we will continually just be a doors open program because of the transfer portal, because of the new possibilities that are afforded to student athletes of being able to maneuver their way through their college football and student experience pretty much wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go. That's kind of the perception. That might be different from conference to conference and school to school, but it's certainly more mobile than what it was when you and I were going through college, Jordan. And the line, though, that is kind of funny to me, I'm just going to be honest, is please respect my decision. Well, buddy, you just signed more than a month ago to come and play at University of Hawaii. And, it is kind of a sign of, we've got a young kid here trying to make a big life decision, probably for the first time in his life. But I think I'm going to be kind of firm. The way that I was raised, Jordan, and I'm going to continue to be this way is, hey, you gave your word. So you still could transfer, but in some ways you owe it to those guys because you gave them your word. Who knows? Who knows what went down in this process? If there was family decision making, they don't list if if a guy was on scholarship or if a guy was being invited to a preferred walk-on. position that I believe, Jordan. I don't know if we're privy to that information. So, when you consider that, then all kinds of other questions about financial capabilities and being able to swing it as a student athlete come into the picture. There's a whole lot more things that are required to get a student athlete over here in classes, in the classroom, in the university, housing. There is 100 different boxes that need to be checked in order to get a guy to successfully put on the pads and on the field. So there's a bunch of different circumstances that could be at play here. Of the 29 recruiting guys, to just see one decommit is still encouraging.
Yeah, and I'm still confused as to how it all works, because guys do get the transfer portal option, right, where they can leave once at any time. I don't know how that works if you've just signed a national letter of intent. It's all new. We're all learning how this all sort of plays out. Speaking of recruits, did want to get into one of the comments we got a couple of episodes ago from our guy Al about Eddie Jose Katia. He is the sprinter from Australia, represents New Zealand in international track and field and international athletics. Never played American football, bit of a rugby background. I think caught a lot of people by surprise when he signed during the early signing period. And got a lot of people excited because of his speed. Yeah. Like, he's a world-class sprinter. And so our guy Al from VA asking, he is run a few slower times in the 100 than last year. I think Al from VA found a time where he recently ran a 10.27 in the 100 meters. He also, like 11 days ago, ran a 10.16, I believe it was. So shaved a bit of time off of the time that he's bounced around in his times. But Al took that as maybe a positive sign that he was running a little slower because maybe he's bulking up a little bit for football. I love it. I love the investigative analysis here from our guy Al from VA, because he did run like a 10.08 last year at the World Championships. He compared it to guys like DK Metcalf, who has run in some track events. At DK's what is he, 6'4", like 225 plus 230. He might even be bigger than that, quite honestly, with his muscle mass. And so Al's kind of asking, he's curious as to what the University of Hawaii's plans are in terms of a strength and conditioning approach, where they want to get him, how he's going to look in a run and shoot type of offense, if that's indeed where they plan to play him at receiver. How soon can we see him on the field? Is he like this season guy? I don't know, right? I think it's going to be hard to say until they get him on the field. We do know that he is a world-class athlete. Maybe it is putting on some muscle to get him ready for the rigors of a football season and taking hits. But I love that our guy Al from VA here is digging deep, man. He's following. He's locked into some of these recruits.
Throw him a go route, Jordan. That is the answer. As long as we can give Shager or whoever our starter is a little bit of time to let Eddie Osei Nketia, which our guy Al also deemed Eon, the acronym EON, which I think is super fun. As long as we allow Eon a little bit of space to beat a jam, we're going to have to teach him how to do that. And you let those long legs stretch. I can't imagine anybody catching him at that speed right there. So, oh man, that gets me excited. Just daydreaming about the possibilities of what this guy could do on the gridiron for us. And if you have speed like Tyreek Hill, it takes the top off, and it allows for so many other things to be incorporated here. I would hardly ever include him on routes over the middle just to protect him. you don't necessarily need to throw to that speed all the time. You allow that speed to create other options for you. So I'm sure our coaching staff is considering that as well. But if you played rugby, I'm sure he's a tough kid as well. So this is a phenomenal find, a phenomenal job by our recruiting class. I mean, our a recruiting job by this coaching staff of thinking outside the box, and it's worked for us in the past with rugby guys like Scott Harding from similar pathways down in Australia. And yeah, it's exciting. I'm not sure what Coach Cook's plan is specifically. Next time I see him, I'm definitely gonna pick his brain on molding a sprinter into more of a football type of a body. He already, I think they've got him at 6'4", don't they, Jordan? So
something like that. Yeah, he's a big guy.
Dude's giant. So I don't imagine us limiting him to the tight end position. We will probably put him as wide out as we can possibly try to throw out there and just send the dude on go routes. That's a good time. I hope that the secret of Eon kind of stays with us until we sneak him on the field and he runs a 60-yard go route for a touchdown.
Yeah, they looking back at the notes from signing day when he signed, they listed him at 6'5", 210.
Jeez. You can't teach me, Jordan. That is awesome.
That's a good frame right there. That's a good frame. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll see if maybe indeed he's bulking up a little bit to get ready for football season. I'm not sure even the plan exactly when he's planning to get to campus or anything like that, because dude's running international track events. He's been busy here as of late. Whether it be a summer guy or exactly when he's going to enroll in the program. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. All right, a little fun conversation on a bunch of different topics here today. Going to wrap things up before we head on out of here. Little closing 2-minute drill for the overtime. I just wanted to mention how much fun Shohei and Trout was to end the World Baseball Classic yesterday. Like how ridiculously cool was that? And all the haters who say the World Baseball Classic is meaningless and just a risk to player health for their Major League Baseball teams. Like, I mean, just the entire tournament, but what a showcase, the international buzz. And then to get a situation where it's Ohtani on the mound, Trout at the plate, 1-run game, 3-2 count. You can't write a script like that. It was ridiculous. And so I'm a big proponent of the World Baseball Classic, and I'm glad they're continuing it.
You think it doesn't matter to those guys? Well, Shohei's pitch spread was 100, 102, and that splitter was 86. He gave Trout everything he had. That is awesome. And fans of the sport, fans of all sports, to get two of the best in the world facing off against each other, and it's an added dynamic because they're teammates in the majors who don't ever get to face each other. This is awesome, Jordan. It's similar to golf where players will consider contracts to the Live Golf Tour if they aren't able to play in the Ryder Cup. It matters to these guys being able to represent their country, playing in team-like environments like this, and put on the US of A, or in Shohei's case, putting Japan on his chest and representing his country. They go crazy for baseball in Japan. This was, in my mind, the most successful World Baseball Classic that they've ever done. Obviously, we might be a little slighted right here because of it just happened. So it's most top of mind, but I can't think of one in terms of significance and players being bigger than this. And I hope that we can kind of parlay this into Major League Baseball, because baseball's needed a shot of adrenaline in the arm for a long time. And this is phenomenal for the sport, and a heck of a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, almost to a man, everybody that took part in the Classic said it was as much fun as they've ever had. Some of the biggest games they've ever played it. Trey Turner, who played in a Game 7 of a World Series and won a World Series, says that game that they won in the
Homer
quarterfinals, against Venezuela, or was it the semifinals? Said it was the best environment, biggest hit he's ever had. So that just, I think, kind of sums it all up. And that'll sum it up for us as we head on out of here. Big thanks to our guy Jonathan on the controls. Big thanks to Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union as well. Mahalos to Hunter. We'll see everybody back here next week. Episode 83 coming your way. We'll see you next week on Hawaii Football Now. Aloha, everybody.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.